credit because it was down to like 90.
Yeah.
All right. Actually, I think I have a few things to hand back. I have some corrections to hand back. Let me see here. Mary Travis,
Oh, really? What's
I
that?
think I have a few of your.
Have you graded the extra credit?
No, I'll do that. I'll grade the extra credit and your assignment that's due tonight this weekend.
Okay.
Um, These are old. I don't know why they were. All right, so we had yesterday off. I don't know if anybody looked, but on the Gap, I uploaded a couple documents meant to help you, not necessarily related to assignments or anything like that. But first one is a chart giving you a overview of APUSH themes to think about in your writing. Right, this is just like from the test. So we can go through these a little bit. You've got first one, American and national identity. Here you should be thinking about how did ideas about American identity and values develop among different groups over time, right? Politics and power. How did power among branches and levels of government develop and change? How is that related with political beliefs? Work, exchange, technology. How did economic systems, labor systems, technology influence American society? Migration and settlement. Why and how did people move to and within North America? How did these movements shape the nation? Yeah, I see it's like a little bit off, but hopefully you still have an idea here. Geography and the environment. How did the natural and human-made environments shape social and political development, culture and society? How and why did moral, philosophical, and cultural values change over time? America and the world, or in the world. How did interactions with other nations and peoples shape American identity, policy, and power? All right, and then so downstream from there, I have examples of specific factual information that we have already covered in the first 7 chapters of the American Yup, and what themes that they most obviously, from my perspective, connect with. Right? Remember this one, Three Sisters, that's so far back in the past. Right? These ones, some of the early stuff with as it relates with like European exploration, I think that those are going to be most challenging to write about because the sources are somewhat limited. But when you get into sort of later examples, what about with migration and culture within colonial America and then like the new founded country following the revolution? What's a primary source that we might use there? Or example of specific factual information that could tie in there.
I have a couple sources about like slavery and the slave trade where people were forcefully displaced.
Okay, yeah, you could use that. What might that tie in with in these themes here? If we're going to talk about slave trade, what would it?
Migration and settlement.
Could? Is that the best one?
Possibly work exchange and technology.
Yeah, I would say probably
yeah.
work, exchange, and technology. How about Bacon's Rebellion?
Politics and power. Or America and the world.
Politics and power. It's not America yet.
Or America.
It's colonial. It's colonial. Oh.
You could talk about.
I guess it is. Yeah, you could tie it in, right? Because it is sort of this budding American identity, separate from a British identity. That said, Bacon was
Very political.
he was like trying to make the case that he is actually more British than the governor of Virginia at the time. How about the Declaration of 1763? What is that?
It was about land, right?
Was that
Yeah.
the one like
It's
banning them
politics and
from
power.
west of the Appalachian Mountains?
Yeah, which one would that work with?
Migration.
Migrations.
Yeah, migration and settlement, I think, is best there. That's a really important example of specific factual information to have some grasp over, especially as it relates to the American Revolution, right? Interactions between colonists and indigenous peoples. Yeah, settlement for sure. How about Whiskey Rebellion and Shays Rebellion?
Politics and power.
Politics and power for sure.
And also like national identity, because it shows like they valued like individuality.
Yeah. Okay. What's another one you could tie into it if you're gonna use Shays Rebellion to talk about individuality? What could you pair that with? No, specific factual information.
Oh,
It's one that I'm definitely thinking about. This one is a period of time.
The Enlightenment.
Enlightenment can work, yeah, and
Um,
there's another one that you could tie in with it.
great.
The time period before the Federalist
Awakening.
Government.
That's what I'm looking for here, is Great Awakening, right? This sort of religious revival where you have more of an individualized connection with God, right? And then you could tie that in with the American Revolution later, right? And then you can always go back to that Proclamation of 1763. That is essential to understanding the American Revolution, as is the French and Indian War, right? Geography and environment, you could definitely talk about Spanish conquering of Central and South America, right? French in Quebec, British along the East Coast, aside from Florida. But anyway, I hope that you get some use out of this. I put a lot of what I think are sort of the more important examples of specific factual information that we've covered so far in the first 7 chapters. Because I don't want you to forget this stuff. You know, you need to sort of keep it kind of in the back of your mind. You should just refresh a little bit, right? I mean, some of this stuff can really disappear quite quickly if you're not kind of looking back a little bit. Zong Massacre, what was that?
It's when they
Massacre of slaves on the ship.
And
Yeah.
they made like an insurance
yeah, because
plan.
they wanted money from them.
Wait,
What
insurance.
what could you tie that into?
Maybe
exchange and technology.
Yeah, for sure, right? Maybe even American and national identity
Yeah.
too, right? Rose Davis case, right? Probably could tie in with Zong Massacre. Francis Lejeune, who is he?
He's the one who baptized a lot of enslaved people and like argued for their.
Yeah, and I also heard he was a Huguenot, right? That is something that's interesting about him, and sort of shows how he was a bit of an outsider, especially in colonial America. Dunmore's Proclamation, I accidentally forgot to put that on your last assessment, but that's really important. What was that? Dunmore's Proclamation. It's a call by the British governor. It's an offer of freedom for enslaved peoples who fight on the British side. Right? You could maybe tie that in with the example of whom from our primary
Boston King.
Boston King, right? Dunmore's proclamation, Boston King, those work together nicely. All right. We got some other ones. Some of these might be a little bit harder to pull off. Pontiac's Rebellion, what would you tie that in with? Pontiac's Rebellion comes after what? That's at the tail end of what?
Oh, the French and Indian War?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Yes.
French and Indian War, Proclamation of 1763, and Pontiac's Rebellion, those all work together, right? Migration, culture, etc. Okay. Another thing I uploaded to the Gap that I think I might start doing a little bit more of in the future is summarizing important texts for you, because you don't need to read all of Edmund Burke's reflections on the French Revolution, but if you look at it and you sort of have like a general idea about these perspectives, I think it could help you in general. French Revolution it's not really, it's on the periphery of American history, but it's certainly a world historical event that you should have some understanding of. So I gave you three primary source texts reflecting on it. I give you the biography of the writers and some of the core ideas expressed there. This one is with Edmund Burke. Reflections on the French Revolution. You should associate him with incrementalism, right? He is looking at the French Revolution and thinking that things got out of hand. You associate him with conservatism, that especially even in the present day, he is like sort of foundational to understanding more serious conservative thought. On a more radical wing of things, you have this guy Joseph de Maistre. He is anti-enlightenment. He is Catholic. He sees the violence that breaks out during the Reign of Terror as God punishing revolutionaries and those associated with them for going astray from the Catholic Church. He's interesting. You have some of his core ideas. His writing is its primary source from the French Revolution. And then last one, Alexis de Tocqueville. Has anybody heard of this name before? Okay. He's more famous for writing Democracy in America. He was sent by France to survey America's prison systems in the time leading up to the Civil War. His work, Democracy in America, is considered a masterpiece and highly prophetic in recounting sort of the unresolved questions, especially as it relates to race in America and how democracy can function given the racial dynamics leading up to the Civil War, right? So this work, Democracy in America, is from 1835 to 1840, and he's talking about sort of, among other things, the experience of Black Americans during that time, and it's probably the most important work on those questions, which is kind of interesting because he's from France, right? But he, sometimes an outsider's perspective can highlight things that someone involved might not see, right? He was born into an aristocratic French family. His parents had been imprisoned during the Reign of Terror. Very, very interesting guy. You've got a comparative synthesis at the bottom. I recommend reading through these. do you see any value in this? If I continue to do this going forward, I'll just put these on there. We're not going to really go over them in class necessarily, but they'll just be there for you to sort of have an idea, especially as it relates to primary sources going forward. Okay. Oh, I forgot to do this. Oh, Greg, you're lucky. You're lucky, Greg. I forgot. Okay. Okay, so today, what's due?
Primary sources.
Yeah, your primary sources assignment. I think that there's something about like, you don't have to present this. Okay? If I wrote something incorrect, that's incorrect if you're thinking that. Okay? This is all individual and you don't have to present it, but given that things got sort of screwed up with the day off yesterday, I'm going to give you the time to work on that today in class, and that will be that. Does anybody have any questions about it? Going forward, Gianna, you want to do your makeup?
No?
Oh, yeah.
What do you think? I mean, like, do more makeup on your face? No, I mean, okay, no, yeah, you can do that today. Does anybody have any questions about the primary source thing?
Can you unsubmit mine and make it so I can add 2 attachments so I can submit my picture?
Yes, I can. Anyone else? All right. You are free to get on with that. I'm gonna turn